Ah, yes. The epitome of all marriage conversations. Selective listening. As the gentleman in the commercial is listening to his wife, he's only listening to parts of the conversation. They're kind of having the same conversation about, something's blue and what is it. And then, of course, at the end we see the results that they weren't quite on the same page. And then there's a little quip at the end about how our eyes are green instead of blue. Obviously there's some other communication issues going on there. And I know this is only a commercial, but it's a great example of selective listening. People say you tune your ears out, or you turn your radar off. Just to parts of the conversation. I do it on the phone. I listen, especially with my parents. And my mom starts going on. And no offense to mothers out there, but sometimes it's. And I lean to listen better. And not. That. It kind of goes with pseudo listening. Pseudo listening, you're not paying attention. Selective listening, you're not really paying attention to parts of the conversation. The book defines it as selective listening is focusing on only particular parts of a communication. Of course, all listening, is to an extent selective, because we can't be attentive to everything at once. There's outside interferences, just the noise in general sometimes. If you're outside having a conversation, or inside and the TV's on, or the phone's ringing, or the baby's crying, there's lots of different interferences that can interfere with conversation. So while selective listening may be intentional, sometimes it's not. Obviously in this commercial, it's not intentional to the point where I'm doing it on purpose, but you do it without even realizing it. And I think that's the key thing to remember about selective listening, is sometimes we don't realize we're doing it. And that's actually with any barrier to communication. Sometimes we don't realize it. When we tend to use selective listening, sometimes when we don't want to hear what somebody's saying, reject the communication that makes us uneasy, that can be unwise, because we might miss out on some important information. Going back to my personal experience being married, I do this with all these communication barriers, but selective listening, it's sitting there or whatever, and next thing I didn't hear anything, and then it's, did you hear me? Yes, of course. Well, what did I say? Well, then you're stuck. You're in a jam. So, we need to find ways to avoid selective listening. I would sure like to. If there was a magic wand that turned my ears on to everything I say, everything my wife said all the time, and everything my friends say, and everything my parents say on the phone, and everything my instructors say in class. If there was a magic wand to make you focus, I'd be all over it. Maybe we could patent that and be millionaires. But, unfortunately, that's not going to be the quick, easy fix. There are some things that I've started thinking about. And one of them is, if you have to stop, I learned this in class about clarification. If you stop and maybe you can politely interrupt the person that's talking and say, hey, you don't have to say I'm not focused, but you could say, hey, can you repeat what you said? Repetition can really keep us focused. And I think that's why teachers work on repetition so much, because if maybe the student's not paying attention or falling asleep in class, they learn excuse me, they learn that if you pound that information in, something's going to stick. Hey, I told my wife that. I told Deanne that too, that just make sure, if it's something real important, write it down for me, or repeat it. So I think asking for clarification and repetition is a key to breaking the bad behavior of selective listening.